I am so sorry. And what I'm going to record this, and then what I'll do is I'll get it uploaded to YouTube and send out the link. So if y'all want to refer to it, I have no idea what I did. I just was in here pushing buttons.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm gonna run real quick and run this speaker back to Dr. before she leaves. I'll be right back.
Okay.
But the class is here. Have fun.
Okay. I am so sorry. Okay, so I'm hoping that everybody saw this. This had been included in the email that I sent out about making sure you take care of this. If you haven't already done this, please make sure you do it. I'll be checking the completion records on this against the class roll. Now I got to settle myself down here because I kind of got a little bit worked up. We're going to be going through the handbook. I'm not going to be going through it word by word because there's just too much information in here. So it's going to be up to y'all to make sure you read through this thoroughly and you're familiar with the materials. All of the links in the electronic version, which you were encouraged to save this, as well as print off a copy. So if you printed off a copy, I think this will be a little bit easier for you to go along with it tonight to highlight things that stand out. But all the links that are in here are active links. So if you save the electronic version, this will take you to all of the different items that are listed in the handbook. So please make sure you take care of this. I don't want to have to send out additional emails to people to say, hey, please do this. So my name is Brenda Strong. I'm the testing coordinator. My role is to get you through the testing process. It is the role of your academic department, curriculum and instruction, to actually prepare you for your Texas exams, your teacher certification exams, as well as set the requirements and give testing approvals. I do not give any approvals. I enter them in the system, but I don't determine when you have test readiness. That is completely up to your department. So the table of contents is pretty self-explanatory with page numbers. I hope that this is easy to find the things that you might have questions about. The first page we're going to look at real quickly here is just the content, the contact page. This is for educator preparation services. I'm going to refer to this as EPS because it's going to be a lot easier. So if you have questions concerning either admissions or continued admission into the program, as well as teacher certification, you're going to want to contact Miss Music. There's her email for information related to TEP applications, which you should have taken care of last semester in block 1. There's the link. Or for information that's related to teacher certification, there's the link for that. Miss Lanier works with all field experiences and clinical teaching. There's her contact information as well as the link to her web pages. Here's my contact information. As you can see, my preferred method of contact is by telephone. And the reason is usually when students have questions concerning testing, in order for me to be sure that you understand the information that I'm trying to convey, I want to actually be talking with you. If you email me, chances are I'm going to just send back a response that says, please call me, and include my telephone number. That way I can make sure that we're all on the same page. And then here's Dr. Jones' contact information, telephone number, and email. Now, if at any time anybody has any questions throughout the presentation, let's stop and address them right away. You don't have to, I'm fine with being interrupted. That's not an issue for me. So anytime somebody has a question, let's address them right away instead of waiting to the end and then maybe running the risk of possibly forgetting what the question was. So as I stated, this handbook is going to cover 2 different processes. The first one is gaining test approval for the PPR, your content exam, and the STR if that's applicable. And that's going to be through your academic department, and then registering for the actual Texas exams, more commonly referred to Texas. So you're going to hear me say Texas exams, and these are the exams that's required by the state to become a certified teacher. And contained in this handout are the answers to almost all the questions you might have about testing. It's a very thorough handbook. It's taken a lot of time to put all of this information together, but the only way it's going to be useful to you is if you actually use it. So if at any time you have questions concerning the actual testing process, please make sure to give me a call. Don't accept the word of other individuals in your class or even maybe your faculty members up there. It's not that that they would intentionally give you misinformation, but they are not as familiar with the actual testing process. So just make sure that, especially if somebody's telling you something that's not included in this handbook, or if it runs counter to what the handbook has, then you want to make sure you call me just to get that straightened out. Before you begin, everybody needs to do this, please. You need to log into your TEA account, and you need to make sure you've entered your legal first and last name, and that information should match whatever legal forms of identification you will be using when you go to take the actual Texas exams. You need to make sure you've entered your correct social security and date of birth, that you've supplied and the email account that you actually use, but preferably not your Tarleton account. I know when a lot of people set up their TEA account in block 1, they use their Tarleton account. And although you'll be able to take that email with you when you leave Tarleton, when you finish the program and graduate, it's not for an indefinite period of time. So I think best practice would be to provide another email to TEA that you know you're going to continue to use, and that you will also check. They're not going to send you any spam. They're only going to send you very pertinent updates that may be related to your certification or to exams, something like that. So you don't have to worry about getting spam. Now, there were several people who also didn't complete their profile. I tried to contact those people last semester when I went through and did a check on those. Some people finished them, some people didn't. But it's very important that you go in, and if you do not have a gender and ethnicity entered, that you enter that. This is going to become very important when you set up your testing account with Pearson, because whatever you have in the TEA account has got to match what you set up in your testing account. So the profile must be complete in order for those test approvals to be entered. So if for some reason we get to the point where I'm entering approvals and I see that that profile hasn't been completed, then you will not get approvals entered until that has been done. And then keep in mind that from the Tarleton perspective, your Tarleton email account is the official means of communication, and anything coming out of the EPS office will be going, especially if it's a mass email, it'll be going through the EAB system, so it'll be going to your Tarleton account. Chances are, if something's coming from me, the subject line is going to have something concerning certification testing, but you might see something also admission status, field experiences, clinical teaching. It's just a good practice to get in the habit of checking that on a regular basis and not just going in and deleting. I know you get a lot of emails from Tarleton, but you really need to make sure you're paying attention so that you don't miss important information coming out of this office, as well as other areas of the program. So you're going to know where web pages for all certification testing information are found. Here's the direct link, but we're also going to look at that online here in a little bit. And then what Texas exams will I need to take? This is what I would suggest. Find your certification area in the left-hand column, and this would have been notated on your letter of offer that Miss Music sent out. So you want to be especially careful if your core subjects, that you're not selecting one of the 4 through 8. And then if you were 4 through 8, that if you were admitted as core subjects, fine, then you would look at this. But if you were admitted under one of these other 4 through 8 content areas, do not get it confused with the core subjects. There's a distinct difference between core subjects and these other 4 through 8 content areas. And then the right-hand column is going to tell you what exams that you're going to have to take for that particular certification area. My suggestion would be, in the copy that you printed off, to highlight it. Now, for most of you, it's going to be the EC through 6 core subjects. So these are the exams that you have to take. Now, if you're a 4 through 8 person, make sure you're selecting the right one. But again, it's going to list the exam numbers that you have to take. So are there any questions so far about that? Alrighty. Now, every candidate will be completing test preparation requirements for the PPR, your content area exam, and the STR while you're enrolled in coursework this semester. The requirements to get testing approval are actually set by your academic department, and they will be determining your test readiness. My understanding is that you may be completing representative forms, which are a practice exam. You may also be completing 240 tutoring. You may have worked in 240 tutoring while you were in block 1. I'm not really sure, but you may have. And if that's so, then you know how 240 tutoring works. If we have any people that, and a lot of you will be ESL, you will be working on that when you take EDUC 3310. And I don't know if there's any special ed people up there, but if there are, you'll be working on that with Miss Baumgartner. But for right now, the primary things you'll be working on this semester are test approvals for the PPR, your content area, and the STR. The request forms that you're going to submit to me, and this is just to request a test, there is a deadline of Friday, November 17th at 5:00 p.m. It's a 4-page form you're going to fill out. However, my suggestion to you would be to get this filled out and sent in to me right away. There's no reason to put this off. It would take you 5 minutes to complete this form, and that's one thing that you can get knocked off of your list of to-do things right away and not have this hanging over your head and maybe run the risk of forgetting to do it. So once your department forwards testing approval to me for these exams, then I will be going in and I will be entering approvals in the system. But if I have not received your request to test form, then I'm not able to do that. So I've got to have this. So I would just cross this out and put submit immediately. So submitting this request form to me. Once again, that's the absolute deadline, but my suggestion is to don't put it off so you forget doing it. But what you'll do is you'll fill out this form, and it has to be typewritten, not handwritten. And here's the link that'll take you directly to the form. And then what you'll want to do is you'll want to save the completed form to your device, naming it requested test form 4 with your legal first and last name. And please keep in mind, anytime you're asked for a legal name, you want to make sure at the very minimum you're including your first and your last name. If you go by middle initial or middle name, that's fine. You can include that too. But you'd be surprised how many times people will just fill in for legal name. They'll just give me their last name. I've got to have first and last name. So save that to your device and then open it up and make sure that it's not blank. Depending on your device and depending on, this is a PDF document, and depending on how your device is set up, sometimes it does not save. So if that's the case, what you'll want to do is you'll want to print it off and then scan it and then attach it. But just make sure before you send it to me that it's actually filled in and that you can see all the entries. And we're going to look at the form so you can see that. And then you'll attach that named requested test form to an email to me with requested test document for your legal first and last name in the subject line. Or you can hand deliver it to me, but that's not going to happen because you're in Fort Worth, but our Stephenville people have that option. If you want confirmation that I've actually received your form, then on your end of email, you have to initiate either a request a delivery receipt and or request a read receipt. If you don't know how to do that, you can go into the help function of your email and then just do a search for that, request a read receipt. And what that does is once I look at it, I click on the button that says, yes, I've read it, and you'll know that I've actually received it. What I can't have is everybody submitting the form to me and then sending a separate email to me saying, did you receive it? I don't respond to those. So if you want to know if I actually received it, then on your end, set up either a request a delivery receipt and or a request a read receipt. Now, also what you shouldn't be doing is when you send this to me in the body of the email, say, I'm requesting a read receipt, because I don't respond to the either. The only way I'm going to respond to this is if you set it up on your end. All right, let's take a look at the form. And I would suggest that everybody mark on your paper copy. For some reason, people have problems with the form. And I haven't been.
Ms. Strong, I'm sorry, I have a question I have
Okay.
a couple of questions actually.
Okay.
Before you move on, Izzy.
Okay, so I have a question about the sped. So when we look at this, there's two, I guess, two areas. Are we doing the all level sped education with the ESL supplemental?
Were you admitted with special education?
Yes.
Okay, then you would do the EC core subjects with science of teaching and reading, all level special education and ESL supplemental. So you would fall under this particular category. So you've got these 5 exams to take.
Okay.
And then if you were admitted just with core subjects and not with special education added, then this would be the one that you would follow.
Is everybody
Okay.
good there? Michael.
The current email that she sent out, a hyperlink to fill out that form, it's not working.
Okay.
It's not working?
Yeah, they're saying the hyperlink for the form isn't working on the.
No, like it's not on there.
Oh, it's not on the.
Oh, wait. Is it on
The
the-
handbook.
Well, there's 240 stuff and then there's information
Oh,
about
is
it.
it not?
It's not, it didn't. say
If you
like-
wanna email me the link. Ms. Strong,
Okay,
can-
I just did it. This link, if you've got the electronic version, it's working.
Okay, I think they figured it out.
Okay,
I think they figured it out. Thank you. Any other questions?
I
So
do
then-
have-
okay, now I don't know how to get away from that. Okay, maybe I go to this. Okay. So you're gonna want to make sure that you actually use the link to the form and not fill this one out. This one will allow you to fill it out, but you can see I've got a watermark through this, not to use this. Because if you were to use this and submit this form to me, I'd get the entire handbook. So I don't need 30 some pages to have to go through. So make sure you're following that hyperlink. All right, so like I said, we've got some issues here, and I haven't figured out yet why people find this so difficult to follow. But under Part A, make sure that you're looking at every single box on here, and if it's something you need to fill in or something you need to check. I'm getting some from Stephenville that they're not even putting in their Tarleton ID or their TEA ID. And it's like, okay, don't understand how you missed that. Make sure you're putting in first and last name here, not just a last name. Make sure you're filling in gender. Look at the ethnicity. You're either going to be clicking Hispanic Latino or not Hispanic Latino and then put in a race. Now, I've had questions about the options that are available on here. These are the only options that the state makes available to us. And part of our program accreditation is based off the this information. So therefore, this is all I can offer because this is what the state reviews our program using these options. So that's all I can put on there at this point. Then for program verification, everyone will be clicking this box. This gets overlooked quite frequently. And then if your early childhood, which is pre-K through 3 with ESL, you would click this box. Or if your core subjects, you would click this box. If your EC through 6 core subjects with ESL, or I'm sorry, with special education, you'd click this box. Or if you're one of the 4 through 8, if your core subjects or content area, you'll be clicking this box. So under Part B, you're just going to be clicking 2 different boxes here. That's all you need. And then under academic status, applied to your academic program, probably for most of you, it was either spring or summer of 2023. So you'd put that in there. Now, for some reason, it was fall of 22, you'd put that in. But probably most of you were spring or summer of 2023. Expected program completion, you're in block 2 now. So as long as you stay on target with block 3 and block 4, then you will probably be expecting to complete in fall of 2024. So put that. Now, if you know that you're going to take a gap semester between block 2 and the start of block 3, then indicate on here that you think that you'll be a spring 25 completer. But for the most part, you're probably going to be fall of 24. And then you're going to be participating in the year-long residency, so click that box. And your year-long residency will be the spring and the fall, because it's 2 semesters of 2024. So that's what goes into Part C.
We have another question, Ms. Strong.
Okay,
What about those who have applied for the exemption?
you mean for the teacher aid?
Yes,
Maybe out here indicate teacher aid. Go ahead, don't click one of these boxes. I probably need to add that. Don't click one of these boxes, but if you're gonna, your whatever your final semester is gonna be, then check that up here to expected program completion and put in their aid exempt or something to that effect.
okay.
I'm
Okay,
glad you
thank
brought
you.
that. I'm glad you brought that up. I need to add that to this form. The next page. This first box includes all the exams that are offered continuously, and all these exams are offered by computer. There's nothing paper-based anymore. But the dates are going to vary according to each testing site. So in other words, even though these exams are offered continuously, that doesn't mean that every testing location offers every exam every single day. Some testing facilities only offer the PPR maybe 2 or 3 times a week, and depending on what the content area is, and if it's one of the more higher trafficked content areas, they may offer it more frequently, but there are no set windows. Do we have any EC pre-K through 3 people in this group? No? Everybody's EC through 6 core subjects or 4 through 8
Yeah,
content?
everybody's EC6.
Okay, then I'm not even going to worry about this down here. But you can see that some of these exams, like the Science of Teaching Reading, the ELAR 4 through 8, you can see the asterisk here. This indicates that they have specific score posting dates, and we're going to take a look at that. So on this page, everybody should be clicking the PPR. Everybody has to take that. That's the base exam for all teacher educators. And then if your core subjects, EC through 6 core subjects, you'll click that. If your core subjects 4 through 8, and once again, if you're confused about what you were admitted into the program under, then you want to refer to that letter that Miss Music sent out, that letter of offer. Otherwise, you're going to click whatever 4 through 8 area you are if it's not core subjects. And then if you need to take the Science of Teaching Reading, and then the ESL. And once again, if you're confused about what you need, then go back up to this chart, and this is going to tell you exactly what exam you need to take. So cross-check this against what you're checking off on the form. So check all exams you will be required to take. That's all you have to do on this page. The next page, we're not going to go over this in detail, but I am going to encourage you to please make sure before you sign this that you have read the complete policy page. What I do want to call your attention to is item number 3. Candidates may take only 1 exam per test administration date. When you go in to register for exams, the registration system will allow you to register for 2 exams, possibly even 3 exams on the same day. However, because our candidates that were doing that were typically not successful on both exams and the policy was put into place, it's kind of to protect you. We want all of our students to be able to pass their exams on their first attempt. But if you try to take exams back to back, it's just too taxing and it's too stressful. So we don't want anybody to put themselves through that. We're going to cover the 30-day wait period between test attempts if there's any retakes. There are specific test by dates and pass by dates that you have to meet, but we're going to take a closer look at that too. So before you sign this page, make sure you look at this because it says, I have received, read, and understand the testing policies for Tarleton State University. By signing below, I agree to adhere to the above stated policies and understand that failure to do so may result in the issuance of a flag and or ineligibility to complete the program in which I'm enrolled. So depending on the severity of the violation, you can be removed from the program. So what's happened in the past is when we've had violations, we've had students say, well, I didn't know that it was a policy. And this usually goes to the dean. And the first thing the dean is going to say, Brenda, pull their test request form to see if they signed it. And if they signed it, then the expectation is that you understand and you know all the policies. So I just want everybody to be mindful of that. And then this last page is the FERPA consent. This is what we do with the test scores and who we share it with. So TEA requires this form to be in your file. You'll want to put your, at the very minimum, your legal first and last name in here. And then down below, yes, this is information that you've already included on the first page. However, TEA requires this form, so we have to have that information included on this page as well. Something that is commonly done is people have to look up their TEA number and they'll fill out the form and then they think they're going to go back, they're going to look it up their number, then go back and fill this in. And quite frequently the TEA number is left blank here, it's left blank on the front page. It might be here, but not on the front page. So just keep in mind that you're supplying this information 2 times. So any questions about this form at all? All righty, let's keep going. Did y'all work with 240 tutoring in block 1 last semester? Yes, no?
They've been introduced to it, but they're primarily doing it this
Okay.
semester for.
Okay, all right. Well, here are the registration instructions, and here's the link that you would use, which you may already have this information, and you must use your Tarleton email address in order to get the discounted rate. So for $20 per month, then you have access to all of the study plans that are available. So you can read through this. Now, something that I do want to call to your attention. I'm not sure what your academic department is going to be using for test approval. We've used 240 tutoring in the past, but I'm not sure, since they've taken over the test approval process, how they're going to be implementing 240 tutoring into the program at this point. But keep in mind that whatever percent that they require you in every domain, and that's usually on a single practice test exempt, you only have 3 attempts for the practice exam. You start out with, I think it's study plans, and then there's flashcards and quizzes, and you have to complete those before it allows you to go into the practice test. But there's only 3 attempts allowed in the practice test. If for some reason you're unable to achieve whatever that set percent is that your academic sets, then you have to contact 240 tutoring, and these are the instructions. You have to ask them to delete, and I just put in here the 160 PPR just as an example. But when they delete that, it just doesn't delete your practice exams, it deletes the whole program. And then you have to re-enroll in it and start all over from the very beginning and go back through the study plan, the flashcards, the practice, the quizzes before it lets you back into the practice exams. So just be mindful of not going in there and wasting any attempts on the practice test if you're trying to achieve a certain percentage. And keep in mind that if you have to have this deleted and restart again, then it's not just restarting the practice exams, it's the entire study plan that you have to complete again. And then for 240 tutoring, once you do enroll, those subscriptions auto renew on the same date each month. Now you can put it, you can either cancel it or you can put your account on hold, and then you can go back in if you need it again later on, which you may need that for if any retakes are necessary. So just keep in mind that the credit card will be hit every month unless you tell it to, hey, put it on hold, or you cancel it. There is a student flagging procedure for the teacher education program, and anybody in the program, including your faculty members, any of your course instructors, anybody from EPS, can initiate flags. The flags that I initiate are for missing due dates, like if you were to fail to meet that November 17th submit date for the requested test form, or if you fail to meet the test by dates or the pass by dates. We're going to take a closer look at that. You'll just want to read through this, and then if you want to take a closer look at the flag, then this will take you to the flag. If we've got somebody that needs accommodations for testing, this information was included in block 1 in that PowerPoint presentation that you completed. You need to start working on this right away. Even if you have accommodations through Tarleton, that does not mean that Pearson, the testing vendor, is going to accept the same documentation. They're very strict about how old your documents can be, how old your testing can be, that kind of thing. So you're going to want to go into this right away and take a look and make sure, if you haven't already done this, you'll need to make sure that you're gathering the documents. You'll want to read through this, but then most importantly, you're going to want to go through this link and read through all of this material. You do not register, you cannot submit your materials to Pearson until test approvals have been entered. So if you're not going to get test approvals for the PPR content exam and STR until closer to the end of the semester, you want to make sure that you have everything ready to go and in place to send, because you are going to have to meet a test by date for those exams. And you're going to want to have time for Pearson to review your accommodation paperwork and to grant those accommodations before you can actually schedule the exam. If you schedule the exam before they've awarded you the accommodations, then the accommodations will not be in place. So please read through this now if this applies to you, to make sure that you know exactly what's expected. Now, EPS does not get involved with this process, with the paperwork. If you do need help, then the Office of, I don't know what they're called now. They were called Disability Services. They've changed names, but they should be able to help you with this if you need additional help, figuring out exactly what's needed and what Pearson will accept. Then registering for the exams once those approvals have been entered. Once I receive those test approvals from your academic department, and I'm assuming that I'm going to get separate approvals for all 3 of those exams, so they may all hit at different times, I will have them entered in the registration system within 5 to 7 working days that I receive them. I can almost guarantee you it's never going to take that long unless I'm out sick or there's some kind of emergency that I'm out of the office. Typically, when those come in, I'm in the system immediately entering them. But you must go in and monitor your Pearson account for those approvals. I do not send out separate notifications. I've got almost 100 people testing this semester, and for 3 exams each, I cannot possibly stay on top of that. So you'll have to start monitoring your testing account once you know that you've met the requirements for testing. You must test and retest by the dates established in the year-long resident testing guide table. We're going to take a look at that. And then, as I stated earlier, candidates failing to meet the required dates will receive flags. So it's extremely important that you register to test just as quickly as possible in order to meet those established dates. When registering, it's also important to check the score posting schedules for each required exam, because not every exam will post scores on the same date. There's a delay in the Science of Teaching Reading. There's a delay in the 4 through 8 ELAR. Those are 2 that I know right off the top of my head. It's because they have constructed response questions in them. So for every exam you take, you're going to want to make sure that you know when that score is going to post, especially when meeting the test by score posting date. Equally important is that you know what your particular testing facility requires in terms of acceptable forms of official identification. if you test at different locations, one location may require only one form of identification, another site may require two. You'll just have to make sure when you go into register that you're checking that out closely. And make sure that all of your materials are originals. They will not accept photocopies. They won't accept cell phone pictures, but you can't even take your cell phone in with you. So that's kind of useless as well. Keep in mind that social security cards are not used for identification, but they will list what is acceptable and what they will take at the testing center. You'll also want to make sure that they're not expired. Like usually you can use a driver's license, but if for some reason, and the reason why I'm trying to emphasize that you go in and check your TEA ID or your TEA account carefully is whatever you've entered in there for your first and last name and whatever you enter in your Pearson testing account, they have to match, but it also has to match your ID. If for any reason you show up the day of the test and there's a discrepancy there, they're not looking at middle name, they're not looking at middle initial, they're not looking at your address. They're going to be looking at first and last name and the expiration date. If your ID is expired, by law, they have to turn you away. If there's a discrepancy in your name, by law, they have to turn you away. You don't lose the testing attempt. The attempt won't count against you, but you will lose your money. So just make sure you're checking that very carefully. And then I don't know if we've got any 4 through 8 math or science people here. You'll have to go into we'll look in Pearson, but when you go into Pearson, it's going to tell you if a calculator is required for those exams. And if it is, it's going to tell you whether they supply it or whether you can bring one. And if you can bring one, then there is a list of approved brands that you can bring. So you'd have to look at that very closely. So the safest rule of thumb is to familiarize yourself with all Pearson provided material for each exam you need to take when you register. So we're going to go in, I'm going to do a new share on this, and we're going to go in and we're going to take a look at the Pearson site. Any questions while I'm doing this?
I think we're good over here so far.
Great. Okay. Thanks for hanging with me. I know this is a lot of information, but thanks for hanging with me. All right. This is the formal name of this is Texas Educator Certification Examination Program, but this is the site that's run by Pearson, the testing vendor. In the upper right-hand corner of every single page is this contact us. So you can click on this. Anytime you're doing anything in here, you want to always make sure you're clicking the tabs that say Texas. We're going to do an expand all on this. If you need to contact them, they tell you, here's the link you can click to email them. Here's telephone numbers. They tell you the hours they're available. Lots of times there's live chat available. I unfortunately am not able to help you if you have any issues with this. However, this is a very intuitive site and there have been virtually no problems. So I really don't expect anybody will have issues. But if you do, then that's how you would contact them. If we go back to the home page, if you need those special accommodations, then I know it's on this page right here. This is going to take you to all the information. You can select your exam. You never want packed exam. You never want this. And I've talked with Pearson about this. It's confusing that they list these exams first. You always want to make sure that you're under the Texas exams. So I'm just gonna, I don't know why they make you click an exam, but I'm gonna do PPR, and you always want the 160 PPR. And then all the information is gonna pop up. So if you need to request accommodations, here's where you're gonna get that information. And there's a lot of it. So once again, don't put this off, get started on this. Then we'll just go back to exams. Now, when you go into register, this is the link that you're going to click. And once again, you always want the tab that says Texas. And you say register now. Now, I don't have an account set up, but this is where you will set your account up, and you can do this at any point. You can do this now. You can wait until you have to actually have test approvals, but this is where you would create your account. Once you set this up, then you can go into the actual register function, and the exams that you've been, when you sign in, the exams that you've been approved to take will be listed. So the exams and the prepare are pretty similar. There's not much difference here. Let's look at the PPR. Everybody has to take that one. Once again, you want to make sure you want the 160. Here's what's available. And my suggestion would be that you look at this for every exam that you need to take. About the Texas exam, this is a little bit dry, but it gives you a little background about the exam. Page 2, how to prepare for the exams. Learn what the exam covers. Assess how well you know the content. Familiarize yourself with the different type of exam questions. This is essential. How to approach unfamiliar question formats. It tells you what to expect. Approaches to answering selected response or multiple choice questions. Question types, and then they're going to give you examples. If you are only doing what the department requires of you to get testing approval, but you don't complete this part of it, you're only 50% prepared. If you haven't gone through these steps for your exams, chances are there's going to be some surprises when you go in and take the exam. If you read through this information and you familiarize with yourself with this, especially this particular area, because I can't tell you how many times I hear from students, I think I would have done better on the exam if I knew the type of questions that they asked, how they would ask the questions, or how to approach the questions. They're going to tell you here exactly how to do that. So look at this for every exam you need to take. And then the next page. So for the PPR, you have 5 hours to take this exam. There's 100 multiple choice questions. This is telling you what the standards are for the exam. It tells you the domains. It tells you the percentage of questions that fall within each domain, and then the competencies that are going to be covered. So you can use this as a checklist and go through this and say, yes, 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 I know this, I know this. Oh, I'm not so sure about this. Then maybe you should spend a little bit more time in your preparation, getting a little bit more information underneath your belt in those areas that you think may be deficient. And then the next page, sample selected response. For the PPR, there are, I think it's 40 questions. What you would do is look at each individual question, mentally select it, and then when you click on the answer, it's going to tell you what is the correct answer, why it's the correct answer, and it's going to tell you why the other answers were incorrect. So although you probably are not going to see these exact same questions on the exam, then there's a good chance you're going to see something very similar. So this will give you a leg up. Now, keep in mind that there's not just one version of all of these exams. So if you go in and take the PPR exam, and if for some reason you're not successful and have to retake it, there's no guarantee that when you go to do a retake that you're going to get the same version. There's 3 versions of this exam. You might get the same exam that you took the first time, but you might not. You might get one of the other 2 versions. So when preparing, even for a retest, you can't mentally set yourself up for, well, I have a pretty good idea what I missed, what questions I missed, because you may not even be getting the same questions on the next version. So keep that in mind. I do want to go back and look at the STR because that has a constructed response, but keep in mind, you should be looking at this for every exam that you need to take. Let's see, here's the sample constructed response question. You really want to make sure you're prepared for this because they're going to give you scenarios. and then you're gonna have to respond to them. So this is not a straight multiple choice exam, whereas the PPR is straight multiple choice. So you're gonna wanna make sure, and I think, are you taking this class with Dr. Gentry? Is he teaching or is Dr. Putman? I think maybe Dr. Putman's teaching it up there in Fort Worth.
Dr. Putman teaches
Yeah.
that class here.
I'm sure she's gonna be going through this for y'all. So whether she goes through this exact thing or not, I'm not sure. But if she doesn't, you want to make sure that you cover this. And then as far as scores, this is where you're going to view your score reports. But for the Texas exam, what you can do is, let's look at the science of teaching reading, because that has specific score posting dates. So you can see if you take this exam between these different dates when the score report is going to post. So in order to be able to continue on to TR2, that's the second semester of the year-long residency, you will have to have your PPR, your content exam, and the STR exam passed in order to go into that. And I believe we're going to look at that at the testing table, but I believe the the score posting date is by August 1st. So in order to meet that August 1st score posting for the STR exam, the latest you could possibly test that, and this would only come if you need retests, because you're going to have test by dates that are earlier than this. And we'll take a closer look at this. I know this is confusing, but if you have to do retest on this exam, then as long as you have a retest done by July 7th, then your score will post by July 19th, and you'll meet that August 1st deadline. So you want to look at this for every single exam. But the goal of this whole thing is to make sure that you're well prepared ahead of time so that you're passing on the first attempt. Because we know this is time consuming. And if you have to do a retest, then the remediation for that is time consuming. Plus there's the expense on top of it. So you need to make sure that you're putting just as much into the test preparation as you possibly can so that we can avoid any of these retests. So let's look at the testing guide table. Now you are going to be a spring residency start. You're in block 2 right now. TR1 starts in, I don't know why I have TR2. That should say TR1 there. So that's an error. You want to cross that out. I have no idea. I must have been dreaming when I did this, but that is an error. That should say teacher residency 1 and TR1. You'll be a spring start. So the due date for initial test approvals for the PPR, content area, and STR, that's going to be determined by your academic department. And that's what you're going to be working on this semester. The test by date for those 3 exams is January 1st. So you have to test all 3 of those exams by January 1st before the start of TR1. And then we have retest by dates put in. So if you've taken any of those exams by January 1st, you get your test results and you see that a retest is necessary, then you need to start contacting your academic department and probably more specifically your assigned faculty mentor to find out what you need to do. Because for the first retest, my understanding is that there are specific remediation sessions that you're going to have to attend. So you want to make sure you get on those when they're offered. And then the next retest date for that, or you have to retest by, is April 15th. And then if needed again, then by June 1st. But that you can see the score posting, the passing score posting due dates for those exams. You have to have all of the 3 of those exams passed by August 1st to be able to start TR2. So please cross this out, put TR1 up here. I don't know what I was doing, and I can't believe I had other people look at this and they didn't catch that either. All right, and then for the ESL and the special education, if that's applicable, once again, the test approval requirements are going to be determined by your academic department. You have to test those by no later than June 1st of TR1. So next June, you would be June of 2024. You'll be testing those. Here's the built-in retest dates. And then although we want everybody to have those exams passed before they go into TR2, if necessary, you just have to have them completed and passed by program completion. So as soon as it's determined you might need a retest, you need to start working on this right away. There is a state mandated wait period of 30 days between attempts for each exam. Now it's not between, like you have to wait 30 days between PPR and STR and your content. If you have to retake the PPR, you have to wait 30 days. However, you need to start the retest process right away, and you can get testing approval before the 30 days. It's just that when you go into register, the system isn't going to allow you to select a date that was sooner than 30 days since your last attempt. And that's not a Tarleton rule, that's a state rule. So if I've managed to confuse anybody with this, let's take questions now.
I think everybody's following, so we don't have any
Okay.
questions.
Okay, great. We're going to keep moving then. Candidates will not receive separate notification of entered approvals. You just need to be going into your Pearson account, and there are instructions on how to set that up. We're going to take a look at that. Once again, I'll have those in no later than 5 to 7 working days, but that's only going to be like if I'm out sick or there's some other kind of emergency that I'm not at work. Otherwise, if I'm at work and I get a test approval, I'm entering it right away. We talked about flags being issued by failure to meet those test by or retest by dates. You can test sooner than those additional retest by dates in there, but at the very minimum, those are the ones that you have to meet. But if you want to allow yourself more opportunity to retest, then you can certainly test before those set dates. You're responsible for contacting your department concerning any mandatory remediation. I don't have that information, so you'd have to get that through your assigned faculty mentor. And I don't know who your assigned faculty mentor is either. That's also done at the department level, and that information is not shared with me. So if you need confirmation of who you've been assigned to, then contact your department. Passing of exams does not certify you as a teacher. There's a common misconception that once you have all of your exams passed, that certifies you. But in order to be eligible for recommendation, and Tarleton recommends you for certification, you have to have all coursework passed. You have to have a successful clinical experience. You have to graduate, and your degree has to post in the system, in addition to having all of your exams passed. So once all of those requirements have been met, then Miss Music, who is our certification officer, can hit that recommendation button. When you're in the last semester during TR2, she'll send out an email with instructions on how to apply for certification. As long as you have all of your exams passed, she'll tell you go ahead and apply, but she won't be able to hit that recommendation button until those degrees have posted in the system. And then keep in mind that your certifications are not listed on your degree. Your degree, your Tarleton degree, is just going to show what your major was. It'll be your teacher certification that's issued by the state that'll list what your certifications are. There is no certification for PPR. So you'll just have your content area. If you have ESL, you'll have ESL on there. And if you're special education, then you'll have those all listed. For core subjects retake, so if you're an EC through 6 core subjects, there's 5 different subsets to that exam. There's the ELAR, math, social studies, science, and then fine arts, health, and PE. In order to get a passing status on the exam, you have to pass all 5 subsets. If you fail 2 or more of the subsets, when it comes time to retest, You're only going to complete remediation for those subsets that you have remaining to pass. But when it comes time to take the exam, you have to register for the entire exam. Now, you scroll through the subjects that you've already passed. You're probably going to want to highlight this because this gets asked a lot. You'll scroll through the subjects that you've already passed and you just take those that you have remaining. The only time you're allowed to register for one single subset is if that's all you have left to pass. So say you passed 4 of them and maybe you didn't pass math. Then you can go in and you can register just for math. The system will allow you to do that. And instead of $120, that'll be $65 to take the individual one. But if you have 2 or more of those subsets left to pass, then they require you to register for the entire exam. So you're paying $120 for the exam, and then you're just retaking the ones that you have left. If for any reason a candidate is removed from a year-long residency, and there's a variety of reasons why that may happen, then you would be required to go into a traditional 1-semester clinical teaching setting, and you would have to have all of your exams in order to pass in order to complete that last semester. You wouldn't be able to have ESL or STR or special ed hanging out there if you have to switch to a traditional clinical teaching semester. For the most of you, this will not happen, but there are occasions sometimes where this happens. All right, how to register for the Texas exams. I'm just going to keep hitting this because I can't emphasize how important to make sure that everybody go in and check your TEA account for completion. Once again, if for some reason you don't have your profile completed in there, when I get test approvals, when I go in and enter those, if I see it's not complete, then those approvals will not be entered. So, and please make sure whatever you have entered in your TEA profile, that you're consistent with that information when you're filling out that request to test form. Make sure that you're giving me the same information that's in the system. My records that I keep for accreditation of our program need to match up with the system. And when those numbers conflict, then I have to go searching through everybody's records to find out where the error is, and it's very time consuming. So just be consistent with the information that you're putting in those specific fields. Okay, so after you've checked your TEA account, and you can do this right away, you don't have to wait until you have approvals. You can do this now if you want to. That's when you're going to go into Pearson. That's where we just were. And this is going to walk through how to sign up for your account. And once again, nobody's ever told me that they've had a problem with this, but if you do, there's the helpline. And remember, in the upper right-hand corner of every single page of Pearson, there's that orange contact us link so you can contact them. We're not going to go over this. This is departmental related, but if you do need to do a retest, the remediation plan is included in here. So you can see there's different requirements depending on if it's your first request to retest. Here's active links to the documents that you use. You will actually be submitting these materials once you've met with your faculty mentor, and they have to sign off on some things, and then you'll be submitting these to Dr. Garcia, and then she forwards those approvals on to me. But it's different depending on what number of retest it is. So if it's the first, and then if this is the second, there's just different requirements, and then third and fourth. Confirmation form. These are the things that the department is going to require for you for retesting. I was going to say something about this and it just completely slipped my mind. When it comes to number of attempts, state law only allows Tarleton to approve you for a maximum of 5 attempts on any one given exam. And as I've said, our goal is to have you prepared so that you pass on the first attempt. We don't want our people to have to do retakes. If for some reason, and this has happened, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it has happened that if somebody maximizes out on the 5 attempts that we can approve any individual to take, there is a waiver process through the state. The waiver process is, I think they charge like $168 or $178 just to submit the waiver, but they're going to make you jump through all kinds of hoops. And then it has to go through TEA for approval, and but they can give additional retake approval past the 5 attempts if that becomes necessary. But I guess I'm saying this just to stress the importance of making sure that you are fully invested in the test preparation process. I know sometimes there's a tendency for some to think, oh, this is just a box I need to check off just so that I can get testing approval. But once again, the amount of effort that you put into this, a lot of times is going to determine your success, and we want everybody to be successful. For additional test preparation resources, please keep in mind that my function is just to get you through this process. It's your academic department's function to get you through the actual preparation part of it. So if you have difficulties, then you should be seeking the help of your academic department. We know that 240 tutoring is probably going to be used at some point along the way. We know that it's not a one size fits all. These are the additional items that I'm aware of. I'm not endorsing any particular one. Keep in mind here that you can go into YouTube and Google and do a search for free Texas study materials and then put in the name of whatever the exam is. You are not going to believe how much information is available out there. There are a lot of free materials that people have told us that they have found helpful. My understanding that these are free resources here, and then there are other commercial resources here. If you want to use certified teacher, then there is a discount code that I can provide for you. If you want that, just contact me and I'll get it for you. But this is what I'm aware of. So I'm frequently contacted by students say, what are the other resources that are available? And I'm literally giving you everything that I'm aware of. Here's a bunch of links, and a lot of these are related to the core subjects, not all of them, but a lot of them are. Here's a bunch for the ESL supplemental. Here's some special ed. Here's some science of teaching reading. So most of these are very short, so probably worth your time to go through these before you take the exam. All right, before we wind down here, some of this information is going to be repeat information. Some of it is going to be new. I'm not going to read through this word by word. I'm just going to hit the high points. You've got to be able to thoroughly read this information that's being provided because, like I said, we haven't gone through this in detail. And then you've got to complete whatever the test approval requirements are that your department has set. You need to submit that form to me by no later than Friday, November 17th, but I'm encouraging you to do this right away. Don't wait. This is going to get away from some of you people. So get this submitted to me and off your plate right away. You need to make sure that you're following the testing guide table to meet the test by, retest by, and the pass by deadlines. It's going to take budgeting your time wisely. I know that a lot of you are family people, you have jobs, you're doing school in addition, but you've got to find time to be able to work this in. Don't confuse the packed exams. You don't want anything packed. Last semester, I had 2 people take packed exams and they passed them, but they don't count towards anything. Some programs use the packed exams. It's just a content only. There's no pedagogy in there. It's just a content only, and they'll use it for actual program admission. We do not use it. But if you take it, then it's $120 and it goes towards nothing. So don't get that confused. If you have a documented disability and you need those special accommodations, please start working on that right away. Those exams must be completed according to the dates outlined in the testing guide table. The current cost of all exams is 120 to 140. The only ones that are 140 that I'm aware of right now are the STR, and if you're 4 through 8 ELAR, and it's because they have that constructive response. Otherwise, the rest of them are 120. When you go into the Pearson system, they're going to say $116, but what they don't tell you is when you go to pay for it, there's a $3.40 state use fee tax on that. So I just rounded up to $120. Keep in mind that the Tarleton testing policies only allow you to take one exam per calendar day. If I see that somebody has registered, and I do go in and record registrations every week, but if I see somebody's registered to take exams on the same day, then that's a violation of the policy. So a flag is issued for that. Plus, you'll have to change your registration. Your score report's going to be available to you through your Pearson testing account. Typically, scores post on Tuesdays and Fridays. Now, if there's a Monday holiday or a Thursday holiday, it throws that schedule off, and they will tell you that your scores, you'll have your scores by 10 p.m. that night. I get scores on the same days, but I usually have them between 8 and 10 o'clock in the morning. So I'll probably know before you do what your results are. A passing score on all exams is a 240. A perfect score is 300. So as long as you score 240 or better, you've passed the exam. Just be sure to begin testing early enough to meet those dates in the testing guide and allow enough time for any necessary retakes. And then item 10 there, you do not need to submit your Texas exam scores to me. I automatically get them. Please highlight this because a lot of people will download their score reports and send them to me. I don't need them. I'll already have them. So it's not necessary to send them. We just talked about that 30-day wait period between attempts, but do not wait 30 days to begin the retest process. You should start on that right away. Okay, we just talked about the state law with the 5 attempts. Keep in mind that the vast majority of our candidates are able to pass all exams with minimal attempts. Like I said, our goal is that you're prepared to pass them all on the first attempt. We've talked about the TEA login, just making sure that everything in there is correct. Some of that information, if it does need to be changed, you can change, but some of it you have to submit documentation through Pearson. Thankfully, you can submit a lot of it electronically to them instead of actually sending them documents like you used to have to. But you want to make sure that this is all taken care of before you start registering for exams. Be checking your legal ID to make sure it's not going to be expired. And then when you go into register, make sure you know what your testing facility is going to require, because different testing facilities have different ID policies. There are various testing locations. You're free to test at any one of them, but it's important to register early to be able to obtain your optimal testing dates and locations. This is going to really specifically come into play at the end of the semester when you're getting your test approvals, to make sure you get registered right away so that you can meet that test by date of January 1st for the STR, your content, and the PPR exam. Don't take anything into the testing center other than perhaps your exam confirmation email. I always take precautions. I would be taking in my confirmation email just in case they said, we don't have a registration for you. This used to happen quite frequently with the previous test vendor. I've only known of it happening one time with Pearson, and I think we've been using them now for 4 years. But as a precaution, I would take it. And then just make sure you read through those registrations. They're going to tell you everything that you cannot take in. They're going to tell you the types of accessories, like types of jewelry that aren't permitted, and hair accessories, that kind of thing. If you wear eyeglasses, chances are they're going to ask you to remove them so that they can inspect them. So you'll just want to make sure you're familiar with all that. We talked about laying out a semester. If for some reason that you have a change in your plans, please make sure that you're keeping the EPS office informed, especially Miss Lanier for placements. We need to be contacting our schools just as quickly as possible if we know a change needs to be made, because we need to keep our relationships with them just as good as we possibly can. We talked about the Texas exams not certifying you as a teacher, not being listed on your Tarleton employee, on your Tarleton diploma, and then adding additional testing and certification fields. Once the state has awarded you your standard certificate, at that point, you are free to go into Pearson and you can literally test any of those additional classroom level certification exams. Now, as you pass them, you actually have to apply through TEA to have them added to your certificate. They do not automatically add as you pass them. They want to get their $78 from you every opportunity that they can. But we would encourage our candidates to do this just because it'll make you a little bit more marketable. There's a page about the Dennis P. McCabe Scholarship. Please take a close look at that, because for your final semester, you can get awarded $1,000. The last time I talked to scholarships, they told me as long as our candidates met one of the 4 qualifiers, there's a 100% award rate with this. So that's pretty easy money. If at any time you have questions about the testing process, please contact me. You may hear different information that either wasn't covered tonight or that's not in the handbook. Now, if it's related to what you have to do to gain test approval, then that is up to your academic department. But if it's related to the actual process, then please contact me if you have any confusion. Once again, I prefer telephone calls. There's no shortcuts to this. You really have to put in the time and the effort, and you have to make it a priority. So just keep that in mind. And then here, all of these links are active, and it's to everything that's listed throughout the handbook on one page here. So you can easily locate these things if you don't want to, scroll through the entire handbook. And then here is the page related to the scholarship. I don't know what the deadline is, but there's contact information for scholarships department. I do know that you have to have a regular scholarship application on file, and then you have to specifically apply for this one. This is not rolled into any of the other scholarships that are offered. There's a specific application process for this. So that covers everything that's in the handbook. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask at this point?
Any questions? No questions so far. I'm sure they will come.
Okay. Thank you very much for your attention this evening. I know it can be overwhelming. Once you get started in the process, I think you'll feel a little bit better about it. I had trouble with my recording this morning. Hopefully this recording is going to save. And if I can get it posted on YouTube, I'll do that. And then I'll send out the link through the EAB system. But I apologize for the issues that we had getting started here. And Dr. Hill, thank you very much for allowing me your valuable class time to cover this information.
Thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thank you.
It's a lot. So, again, it's a late class. We appreciate you being here this late. with
Okay.
us.
Okay. Y'all have a good evening and have a safe drive home.
All right.
You
Thank
too.
you. Thank you.
Okay. Bye.